Have you ever noticed something unsettling? The more deeply you think, the more isolated you feel. The more questions you ask, the more uncomfortable people around you become. At first, you might dismiss it, thinking it's just bad luck or maybe a mismatch of personalities. But over time, a pattern emerges. The deeper your insights, the fewer people want to hear them. The clearer your vision, the more resistance you face. This isn't your imagination. It's a truth as old as civilization itself. Society, for all its progress, has always been uneasy with deep thinkers. Not because these thinkers are wrong, but because they illuminate truths most people would rather not face. History is littered with examples. Socrates sentenced to death for corrupting the youth. Galileo imprisoned for proving what we now accept as fact. Nietzsche dismissed as insane. Tesla ostracized despite transforming modern life. These weren't failures of intellect. They were failures of society to tolerate discomfort. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the most brutally honest philosophers, understood this dynamic better than most. He argued that intelligence itself can become a curse, a force that isolates, alienates, and often leads to suffering rather than success. To Schopenhauer, the world is driven by what he called the will, a blind, instinctive force that compels humans toward survival, comfort, and pleasure. Most people live at the mercy of this will, seeking out whatever numbs the existential ache beneath the surface. But the deep thinker is different. They are driven not by the will to live, but by the will to truth. And that makes them dangerous, not in a violent sense, but in a psychological one. Their very existence challenges the comfortable illusions that hold society together, and human beings will fight to protect those illusions. This is why intelligence doesn't just provoke admiration. It provokes discomfort, suspicion, even hostility. It reflects back to others the limits of their own understanding, and few things are more threatening than that. You might be feeling this right now in your own life. Perhaps you've tried to bring up a complex idea, only to be met with awkward silence. Perhaps you've shared a perspective that digs beneath the surface, only to find people dismiss or even resent you for it. It can be baffling. Why would truth, insight, and clarity be met with rejection? To answer that, we have to look deeper, into human psychology, into evolutionary biology, and into the way society protects itself from change. Because what Schopenhauer taught is more relevant today than ever. The world fears those who see too much, know too much, and think too deeply. And yet, paradoxically, it is precisely those people like you, who push humanity forward. In this video, we are going to explore why intelligence unsettles society, why deep thinkers are often outcasts, and what you can do to navigate a world that both needs your mind and resists it at the same time. We'll dig into history, psychology, and Schopenhauer's philosophy to uncover a hidden truth. That deep thinking, while isolating, is also a rare form of power. If you've ever felt alone in your thoughts, misunderstood by those around you, or even punished for your intellect, stay with me. Because what you are experiencing is not a personal failure. It is a predictable, almost inevitable consequence of seeing the world too clearly. And once you understand why this happens, you can learn how to wield your intelligence wisely without falling into despair or resentment. Let's begin by understanding the deep roots of this discomfort. Why, from an evolutionary standpoint, society is built to resist deep thinkers. To understand why intelligent people unsettle society, we have to look beyond philosophy and into biology. Human beings are social animals. And for most of history, survival didn't depend on individual brilliance, it depended on group cohesion. In ancient times, being part of a tribe was a matter of life and death. To be cast out was to face certain destruction. This created a primal instinct to favor the group, maintain harmony, and distrust anything or anyone that disrupted the collective balance. Deep thinkers, by their very nature, do the opposite. They question, they challenge, and they expose contradictions, not just in abstract systems, but in the very beliefs that hold communities together. Unlike physical strength or beauty, which can unite or uplift a tribe, intelligence threatens the status quo. Psychologists call this the status quo bias, our brain's tendency to prefer familiar, comfortable ideas over new and unsettling ones. When a deep thinker introduces a fresh perspective, it isn't just the idea itself people resist, but the psychological discomfort it brings. The reckoning, the admission of potential error, the embrace of the unknown. This explains why intellectuals often feel out of place in social settings, not because they lack social skills, but because their depth acts like a mirror, reflecting back the unspoken limits of those around them. Schopenhauer captured this when he wrote, "A high degree of intellect tends to make a man unsocial." You may have been told you think too much, or noticed rooms go quiet when you share a deeper insight. These reactions are rooted in evolutionary defense mechanisms. What's more, a Stanford study found that while one-on-one interactions with deep thinkers can feel inspiring, in a group setting, those same thinkers can trigger social anxiety as others compare themselves and protect their own standing by undermining or excluding the intellectual voice. Yet, here's the paradox. Every major leap forward in human history has come from those willing to think deeply and endure the isolation that follows. Schopenhauer understood that intelligence both isolates and liberates, freeing the mind from comforting illusions, even at a personal cost. So how do you navigate a world that both needs your insight and resists it? We've already seen how evolutionary instincts make people wary of intellectuals. But the rejection of deep thinkers isn't just primal. It's also shaped by specific mental biases that influence how people respond to complex ideas. Let's start with the Dunning-Kruger effect. This bias shows that people with low ability or understanding tend to overestimate their competence, while those who are highly skilled often underestimate theirs. In simple terms, those who know little think they know a lot, while those who know a lot are painfully aware of how much they don't know. When you introduce a nuanced idea, those with shallow knowledge might dismiss you outright. Not because they truly understand and disagree, but because they lack the depth to grasp your point in the first place. Meanwhile, the deeper your understanding, the more likely you are to second-guess yourself or tread carefully, making you seem less confident and therefore, ironically, less convincing. Next is the status quo bias, the brain's preference for familiar ideas. Even when a new concept offers progress, our immediate instinct is to resist. Introducing a challenging truth forces people to reconsider long-held beliefs, and that uncertainty feels dangerous. Then there's the backfire effect, which explains why people don't just ignore information that contradicts their beliefs, they double down. When you present a challenging truth, many respond not by reconsidering, but by entrenching themselves further, protecting their beliefs at all costs. Consider how this plays out in real life. You present a well-thought-out argument backed by evidence, only to be met with irritation or hostility. people accuse you of being negative, complicated, or too serious. What's really happening is that your depth is threatening their cognitive comfort zone, and their mind is scrambling to protect itself. Social media amplifies these biases to an extreme degree. Platforms like Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram prioritize engagement over depth. Content that is simple, emotionally charged, and easy to digest spreads rapidly, while thoughtful, nuanced discussions are buried by the algorithm. As a result, society becomes more polarized, reactive, and less willing to engage with the difficult questions that truly matter. Schopenhauer anticipated this. The difficulty is to recognize the idea in the appearance, thought in that which is perceived by the senses. People respond quickly to what is visible and obvious, but slow to grasp deeper truths beneath the surface. What does all of this mean for deep thinkers? The rejection you face isn't personal, it's structural, built into human psychology. Understanding this won't erase the frustration, but it can help you depersonalize it. When people resist your insights, it's because their minds are reacting to discomfort, not because your ideas lack value. This brings us to an important turning point. If society is wired to resist deep thinking, how can you, as a deep thinker, navigate this reality without burning out or giving up? Schopenhauer, as brutally honest as he was, didn't just diagnose the problem. He offered a path forward. His first piece of advice? Embrace solitude. A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, he said. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's a sanctuary where deep thinkers recharge, reflect, and deepen their understanding away from shallow interactions. His second principle was to seek depth, not approval. The person who writes for fools is always sure of a large audience, he warned. Chasing mass approval tempts you to dilute your message. Instead, prioritize integrity over applause and substance over reach. Third, be selective in sharing your ideas. To divulge one's deepest insights indiscriminately is a waste of treasure, he counseled. Not every setting or person is ready for profound discussion. Protect your energy by engaging only with those who have earned your trust and respect. Fourth, find companionship in ideas if you can't always find it in people. Books, art, and philosophy become conversations across time, lifelines when the external world feels alienating. Finally, practice detachment. Expect little from others to shield yourself from disappointment. This isn't cynicism, but sober realism. Most resistance isn't personal, it's a reaction to discomfort. Schopenhauer's roadmap isn't about avoiding rejection. It's about building resilience. With solitude, selective sharing, and realistic expectations, you can remain authentic, thoughtful, and strong, even when society resists depth. Schopenhauer couldn't have foreseen a world dominated by smartphones, algorithms, and endless scrolling, but his warnings would have only been stronger. Social media is engineered for engagement, not enlightenment, prioritizing what's fast, emotional, and easily digestible. Viral content thrives on simplicity and spectacle, while thoughtful, nuanced discussions struggle to break through the noise. Deep thinkers must adapt without compromising substance. Break down complex ideas into accessible language, using metaphors, analogies, and storytelling to make your insights resonate. As Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Next, choose your battles wisely. Not every comment section or argument deserves your energy. Save your strength for moments and audiences that truly matter. Build intentional spaces where depth is the default. Niche forums, book clubs, or private groups, rather than mass platforms that reward shallow content. These smaller communities may be quieter, but they offer real connection, intellectual stimulation, and mutual respect. Protect your mental energy by setting clear boundaries. Limit screen time, curate your feeds, and take regular digital detoxes. Solitude, championed by Schopenhauer, remains vital in a world designed for constant connection. Finally, embrace your role as a quiet influencer. You don't need massive followings to make an impact. One-on-one interactions, thoughtful essays, or small group discussions can plant seeds of change that flourish over time. Today's digital landscape is paradoxical. It amplifies noise, but also offers unprecedented tools to connect, share, and build meaningful communities if you use it wisely. Throughout history, deep thinkers have faced rejection, misunderstanding, and even persecution. Yet they found ways to endure and keep thinking. Their resilience offers powerful lessons for anyone feeling isolated by society's resistance to depth. Take Socrates. He spent his life asking uncomfortable questions, exposing contradictions, and forcing people to examine their own beliefs. And for this, he was sentenced to death. His unwavering commitment to truth, even at the highest cost, remains one of history's most inspiring legacies. Stand by your principles, no matter what. Consider Galileo. He faced the full force of the Catholic Church for asserting that the earth revolves around the sun. Silenced and placed under house arrest, he continued his research in private and shared his discoveries with a trusted network. His story teaches us that even when society tries to silence you, there are still ways to keep your ideas alive. Then there's Nietzsche, whose radical ideas about morality and individualism were dismissed as madness during his lifetime. He died in obscurity, only to become foundational to modern thought. Nietzsche shows us that true vision often takes time to be recognized. Your impact may not be immediate, but it is real. Hypatia of Alexandria offers another lesson. A brilliant mathematician and philosopher in a time when few women were allowed intellectual life, she refused to bow to political or religious pressures and paid with her life. Her legacy endures as a symbol of courage and the price pioneers often pay to pave the way for others. Finally, Arthur Schopenhauer himself endured decades of neglect, dismissed as too pessimistic. He persisted in solitude, refining his ideas until they were recognized by philosophers and scientists alike. His journey teaches us that solitude is not a curse, but the crucible of true insight. What unites these figures is purpose. They weren't driven by fame or acceptance, but by a commitment to truth, no matter how uncomfortable. Their resilience reminds us that intellectual legacy isn't measured in likes or followers, but in the lasting impact of ideas on individuals, culture, and history. When you feel discouraged, remember, you are part of a long lineage of thinkers who walked this path before you. Their strength can be your strength, and their stories your guide. It's one thing to know that deep thinking comes with challenges. It's another to survive them without losing yourself. In a world designed for speed, noise, and simplicity, maintaining clarity, depth, and independence of thought is a daily act of resistance. But there are powerful, practical habits that can help you stay grounded, focused, and internally strong, even when the world around you feels indifferent or hostile to your depth. Protect your mental space ruthlessly. Your mind is your most precious asset. Guard it the way you would something sacred by reducing unnecessary noise. Social media, doom scrolling, constant notifications, mindless entertainment, shallow arguments. Deep thinking requires silence, space, and attention. Create it deliberately by blocking off time to read, to reflect, to journal, or to simply think without distraction. Because if you don't claim that space, the world will fill it with nonsense. Practice intellectual humility and strength at the same time. Yes, deep thinkers are often misunderstood, but beware of the trap of superiority. True intelligence is not about looking down on others, it's about seeing clearly without ego. Learn when to speak and when to listen, when to challenge and when to let go, when to explain and when to remain silent. As Schopenhauer said, to use many words to express few thoughts is everywhere the unmistakable sign of mediocrity. Don't waste your mind explaining truth to those who don't want it. Let your energy flow where it can grow. Stop expecting recognition. Start pursuing resonance. Many intelligent people fall into the trap of waiting for others to understand them, to validate their insight, to admire their depth. But truth isn't about applause, it's about alignment. Rather than convincing the masses, seek the few who truly resonate with your way of seeing. One thoughtful conversation with the right person is worth more than 1,000 empty affirmations. And often you'll find that resonance through your work, writing, building, creating, not through endless talking. Build your own intellectual tribe. You don't need to face the world alone. Join forums, read comment sections on great essays, reach out to people who challenge you respectfully, or create a space, physical or virtual, where depth is the default. When you're surrounded by those who value insight over noise, your own mind flourishes. Accept loneliness, but don't romanticize it. Solitude is necessary, but isolation is dangerous. You will walk alone at times. That's part of the price. But don't use that truth as an excuse to become bitter, cynical, or emotionally cut off. The world may not reward your depth immediately, but connection is still possible. Stay open, generous, and human. Remember, even the most brilliant minds longed for meaningful connection. Ground yourself in something greater than intellect. Intelligence without grounding can become nihilism. You need something deeper. A set of principles, a source of purpose, a compass that steadies you when logic fails. For some it's philosophy, for others spirituality, nature, creativity, or service. Whatever it is, find your anchor. Something that reminds you truth isn't just found in thought, but in being. Make peace with misunderstanding. The deeper your insight, the more likely it is to be resisted. You will be misunderstood, judged, dismissed, even ridiculed by those who don't understand your motives or values. Let it happen. Do not waste your life trying to be understood by everyone. Spend it becoming the clearest, strongest, and most honest version of yourself. That is enough. We've traveled a long path. From Schopenhauer's brutally honest view of intelligence to history's harsh lessons about society's rejection of deep thinkers, to the psychological forces that keep humanity clinging to comfort over truth. Now, we need to bring it all together into one clear, unshakable understanding. The world may not want deep thinkers, but it desperately needs them. Thinkers like you keep the torch of truth alive through dark times, refusing to be lulled into comfortable illusions. You ask the hard questions, challenge the consensus, and hold a mirror to society even when it turns away. Every major advance, scientific, philosophical, ethical, has come from those willing to see more deeply than their peers. Yes, it's lonely. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's often thankless, but it is necessary. Schopenhauer believed that deep thinkers carry both a burden and a gift. While others live on the surface, you have the chance to explore the depths, wrestle with meaning, and seek beauty not merely in comfort, but in truth. And here's the secret no one tells you. The more you embrace this path, not as a curse, but as your unique calling, the freer you become. Free from needing approval, free from the noise of shallow thinking, free to shape your own life with clarity, purpose, and quiet strength. In a world that often feels chaotic, your depth becomes an anchor, not just for you, but for others searching for meaning. Although society may fear deep thinkers in the moment, it is these very thinkers who light the way forward. So if you've ever felt like an outsider, if you've ever doubted whether your depth is a weakness, let this be your answer. It's not a weakness. It's your greatest power. And whether the world knows it yet or not, it is waiting for you to fully step into it. If this message resonated with you, share your story in the comments. Have you felt the weight and the gift of deep thinking? Let's build a space where depth is honored, not dismissed. And if you're ready to keep walking this path of insight, wisdom, and truth, make sure to subscribe. We're just getting started, and your voice, your mind, your presence matter. Until next time, keep thinking deeply, keep standing strong, and never forget, it's the quiet, steady thinkers who shape the future.